Hi, and welcome to Right Bike Repeats Highlights Reel. It's mountain bike special today, and with me I have Holly, who's going to talk us through some of the best bits of the 2021 mountain biking season so far. Is it so far? It's over now, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, we're done.
We're done, exactly. So lots of really good stuff to talk about. I am not an expert when it comes to mountain biking. Not that I'm an expert in any other type of cycling. I just happen to know a bit less about mountain biking. I kind of got into it this year, I guess, mainly, other than sort of watching it in the Olympics and stuff. So tell us about yourself and your kind of connection to mountain biking. What is it about mountain biking in particular that you love?
I kind of just got into it accidentally. My other half works in mountain biking and has done for decades. So he knows a lot. Maybe you should be having this chat with him. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I just find it enjoyable to watch. I think, you know, sometimes there's so much road racing on that you can almost get lost in it, whereas it's such a neatly packaged season, the mountain bike season. You might have 8 rounds or 7 rounds. It's an hour and a half. It's very easy to sit down and watch a mountain bike racing, and it's so exciting within the race.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like as you say, it's like a little kind of bubble of people moving around the world, isn't it, into different locations, and it always looks very I don't want to say glamorous because that's not the right word, because it's still full of mud and trees and what have you, but it's just it's really like literally an international thing, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Not just as Eurocentric as
it's not Eurocentric. You know, you have the riders coming from all over the world. The guy that won the under-23 Worlds this year was from Chile, which is cool.
Yeah, I wonder, don't think there's many road races from Chile.
No, not many. But you know, they had a really big squad out at Worlds, and it's just great to see people coming from all over.
Yeah, definitely. It's really, yeah, I do like that aspect to it, and it feels very multicultural, and also you can have your different disciplines as well. So it's like a kind of, yeah, just you got your downhill and short course, and then there's the marathon one, which I saw some of. That looked insane, like really intense.
So difficult. As you know, when you have riders like Nino Schurter struggling to finish the course, it's like, wow.
Yeah, it must be hard. Definitely. Yeah, so, and you live out in Switzerland, so that gives you access to watching quite a bit of, do you manage to get to quite a few live races?
It's been a bit less, obviously, the last couple of years. I try and get to a couple a year, usually Fort William, because I am Scottish and it's at home. And then one other, which is usually cross country. So I've been to Val di Sol, Val Nord in Andorra, Lenzerheide, Switzerland. Val di Sol is my favourite.
Sounds amazing. Yeah, it visits some amazing locations. I think that's another part of the appeal, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think they're going to Brazil next year.
Oh, nice.
Which is first World Cup in Brazil, I think. So, but obviously they had the Olympics there, but that's going to be pretty exciting to take it to a new market.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's quite a strong South American contingent, isn't there?
Yeah. Henrik Cavancini, he's so influential in that sport in Brazil, and he's really, I guess, driven the push for mountain biking and getting people into it. And I think in recent years you've seen more Brazilian riders come over and do World Cups and do World Champs, and I guess having their own event there is the next step in getting the next generation involved.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like it's definitely the sort of prevalent cycling discipline in Brazil. I spoke to Nicholas Sessler from Global 6 Cycling, and he's in the road team, but he does a lot of mountain biking, and he said the infrastructure for road cycling isn't really there in Brazil because everything's so big and disparate and everyone's all over the place, but mountain biking there's a good scene, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's cool.
I'm interested to see where that goes, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, that'd be good. But yeah, having events there is obviously, as you know, as we all know from you know, London and 2012 and the way that cycling took off here. And it's having events in your country is just got to be the number one way to like drive up participation and so on.
Definitely. And getting the younger generations really interested in what they're seeing and thinking, I want to do that. I could do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think mountain biking from that respect is really appealing, isn't it? Because watching a massive peloton ploughing along a straight road in Switzerland might be, you know, might be fun for some people, but I don't think little kids are going to look at that and think that's what I want to do. But they see.
I've done that this year. I went to watch the Tour de Suisse.
Oh yeah,
down a straight road just at the bottom of my road, and it was it was okay, but it's not mountain biking.
It's not, is it? Yeah, you see someone like barreling down a massive hill over some tree roots, and there's something a bit more organic about it.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk 2021 season then. It's obviously been an Olympic cycle, an Olympic year, which I guess throws the focus of the mountain bikers in a little bit of a different way. When's the World Championships, remind me, in comparison to the Olympics?
So I think it was 2 weeks after.
Yeah, I thought it was close, wasn't it?
2 weeks after. It was directly after Tokyo, I think. I'm seeing that, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah.
It's a bit of a
massive dual focus of like of getting ready for those two really big events, but yeah, the whole season's been really cool.
So it was a delayed Olympics as well. I think probably changed things up quite a bit. I think maybe had it occurred in 2020, we might have seen different results. But
well, yeah, that's it, isn't it? Because everyone, you know, people plan to be at their peak at a certain time, and then, you know, some people that might have gotten lucky. I don't know if some people would have been as prepared for it if it had been last year. I mean, obviously, Tom Pidcock being the primary example, I think he would have been ready for it, but would he have been that ready? Don't know.
Interesting.
We shall speculate. We will never know. So anyway, obviously, just to remind everyone, I have 6 categories that I put to my guests. I give them a chance to have a little think about the highs and lows of the season and all the different things that they've enjoyed, and maybe a little bit about what they're looking forward to next season too. And we always start with the big happy category of our biggest cheer, which is your moment of the season in terms of your own personal enjoyment and the thing that just made you just, you know, leap about. And I always want to hear about where you were, what you were doing there. And I think this one's a good story because I think you're actually there. So tell us all about what you chose and about what happened.
Has to be Evie Richards winning Worlds. No contest. I think that would have been the case whether I was there or not. The fact that I was there and watching means that it's not just my cycling moment of the year, but pretty much the highlight of my year. It was so good.
Yeah, I bet it was amazing. Yeah, it was awesome watching just from home. So to be standing right there. So talk us through the day, like how excited were you and where were you standing and as she started to pull ahead further and further, like how did your emotions changed?
So as I mentioned, my boyfriend works in mountain biking for the UCI, so he's typically pretty busy between races and getting the race started. So we watched maybe the first lap and a half and then thought, oh, Pauline's in the lead. That looks quite convincing. Let's go and get some lunch. So we scampered off down to the tent for some chips. Took about 20 minutes. And then as we were walking back, you could see the finish line gantry in the distance. Didn't have any idea what was going on in the 20 minutes because couldn't get Wi-Fi. So coming back, I was, oh, Pauline's in second. What's happened? And then as we got closer, we saw who was in first, and it was just like, oh my God. It was so overwhelming. I was just, I don't think I have been that nervous watching bike races before, but not for a while. I was, had to take a walk, calm down, have a little cry, get it all out, and then come back. But I think even with that, we were kind of watching the UCI have a little fenced off bit next to the start finish line, usually just for starting up the call ups and things. but because of COVID and the big crowds, I'd kind of just positioned myself in there, and also you get a good view. So every time someone was walking past, they were like poking me, remember to breathe. Until you stop breathing again. It's like, ah! Yeah, it was a very exciting moment.
Yeah, I bet. So everyone obviously around you knows you and knows what it means to you. Like, talk us through a little bit about that. I mean, I'm assuming there's a lot more to it than just the British connection. There's you.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of followed Evie since, I think it's 2016, when she won the first under-23 cyclocross worlds. Yeah, and just been really impressed with her since then, everything she's done. And she's so nice. Yeah. It's hard not to be a fan of Evie, I think, because of, just the way she is. And yeah, just watching her progression, I think, has been really interesting, because I don't know, at one point we might have said cyclocross was her stronger discipline. I mean, she won under 23 worlds, she's won World Cups at Namur, and whereas she never really had that success at mountain biking. She's always, not to say that she's not been successful, she has. She was really good in under 23s, won short track races before. She's always been a good mountain biker, but watching that progression, and then all of a sudden it just went whoa.
Yeah,
winning worlds. Crazy.
It's because she did well at the Olympics too, didn't she? She had a pretty good result there.
Yeah, she had a good result at the Olympics, and I think she was happy with it. And then short track, she finished second at Worlds. And I think that was probably the one that I thought, okay, if she's going to win anything, it's going to be short track. She had a really good chance of winning that race. And she was second to Sina Fry. Yeah, it almost didn't enter my head that she could win Worlds. So yeah, complete surprise.
Yeah, and just to be able to stand there and watch it, just
yeah, like, what am I watching? I think even the last lap, when it was like you knew she was going to win, there's still that panic of, oh my god, what if something happens? She still might not.
Yeah, you can't bank on anything till they're over the line, can you?
Exactly. But yeah, it was a very nerve-wracking, exciting day.
I bet it was. And when she finally crossed the line and that was the end, and were you still standing right there and you were able to kind of scream her over the line?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What a moment. I think, like, I don't think many people can say they were literally standing there at the finish line of their favourite moment of the year. Like, that's cool. Did you get to speak to her after the race?
I didn't know. She was so busy.
Yeah, press and all that.
But delighted. I was an emotional wreck and she was not an emotional wreck. She was just delighted. But yeah, it was just such a good result, because she has so many good people around her that, her coaches, Trek team, Simon Watts at British Cycling, that you almost knew how many people would be delighted by it.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's like, it was such a big moment. I mean, you saw during the Olympics, I think her whole village turned out to watch her. So yeah, I think it was a special moment for a lot of people. Yeah,
I think that's the thing. And you were saying about, like, that she wasn't emotional, because I think it's sort of often you do see the emotion on the faces of everybody else, because they're the ones who've kind of invested their, they've everything into her progression, and everyone feels like they've, it's time to celebrate. And whereas I think if you're the actual athlete in that scenario, I think you're still probably in race mode almost. You can't kind of snap out. Yeah, that's nice. Where is she from?
Pardon?
Where is she from? You mentioned her village,
Malvern, I think. She's in Malvern.
Well, that's exciting, and it's obviously going to be amazing seeing her. She's going to be in the Rainbow Stripes all year, and that's like an awesome thing.
Yeah, she's really, I think the way she ended her season just put to bed any idea of the curse of the rainbows. Like, doesn't apply to her.
Yeah, did she win again? Did she win, like?
Yeah, she won, I think, in Lenzerheide and in Snowshoe. So the last two races of the season she won. So.
Pretty much proving a point there.
Convincing, very convincing.
Nice. Well, it'll be exciting to see if she can keep that going next year. Is she going to do any cross this season, or is she injured or something happened at the end, or she just decided?
No, I think the plan is to do cross. She didn't do the American races. She was scheduled to do the American races, but I think was a bit poorly afterwards.
Oh, okay, yeah, I thought I heard something that she wasn't quite 100%.
Yep, but
we'll see her.
She's already in training for the cross season, so yeah, I expect we'll see her at some point.
That'll be good. Yeah, because she did pretty good at Worlds last year as well, didn't she, in cross? So yeah, be good to see her back. And yeah, it's fabulous. Definitely, she's made a fan of me this year as well. So I'm excited to see her back. 100%.
I think everyone wants her.
Yeah, she does seem fab. So we have to obviously talk about sad moments too, because we have to get this balance and remember the difficult times. So what was your shed a tear moment that you chose?
Mathieu Van Poel's crash at Tokyo. It had to be, really.
Yeah, it's pretty clear, isn't it?
Yep. I think there was just so much build up going into the race, you know, like it's going to be Mathieu versus Tom, and everyone really expected big things. And for him, I think any crash is frustrating, but the fact that it was on the first lap and the race had barely even started, just
yeah,
felt robbed.
I know. Yeah, exactly. There were so many levels to it, I think, weren't there? And I think especially afterwards when you started to hear kind of a bit of the backstory about what Rampgate, yeah. So remind us what happened, like, because I remember hearing that he thought that there was going to be a ramp, but everybody else knew. So what? Was there a loss of communication somewhere along the line, or?
So it's quite typical in World Cups if there's a big jump in the first couple of days of practice to have a safety ramp that just to help riders find their feet, to work out the landing, what line they're going to take, and it's just there in case anything goes wrong. Typically on the last day of practice, that's taken out, so they can then jump without it. It's always communicated to the riders via the team managers at a team managers meeting that they have. And that was the case in Tokyo, that it was taken out before the last day of practice. The managers were told at the meeting, and it's then their responsibility to communicate it to the riders. What happened with Mathieu? We don't know. We just don't, because he, as far as he was aware, that the ramp was going to stay there. You could see by the way he entered the jump that he thought the ramp was there. He didn't even try and jump. But then you have the team manager saying that it was communicated to him, and then also his teammate Milan Vader saying that he'd had a conversation with him about it. So yeah, it's still not clear what happened, really. Yeah,
just one of those
how it plays out, but
you cat freak sort of thing, wasn't it? It just, it was like, I remember watching it in real time, and about 3 laps later I was just like, can we just start again? I was just like, can we just rewind? Like, it was just such a random.
It's not what I signed up for.
No, exactly. We'd been waiting so long for that particular, and he hadn't raced. He'd left. I mean, arguably he might have left the Tour de France anyway before the big race came in. That's probably fair to say, Olympics or not. But there was that whole kind of, I'm prioritising the Olympics. That was his.
Well, he says that. I think there are question marks over his preparation for sure, because he did it completely differently to everyone else. Everyone else went out, over a week in advance, because just to get used to the humidity in Tokyo and the time difference and get over the jet lag and really go in fresh. Whereas Mathieu didn't. He went out, he didn't fly out until the day where I think people were doing the course walk. So he arguably had a lot less time on the track than everyone else. And it was while he was getting over the jet lag.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you are prioritising something, I don't know why you would maybe not give yourself the best shot at it.
Yeah.
I know his coach gave it, not the coach, sorry, the team manager had given an interview saying that, you know, that was what was planned. And he hadn't wanted to, basically because of coronavirus restrictions, didn't want to sit in his room for a week, which is fair enough. Not everybody can do that. It's not.
If anyone wouldn't be able to do that, I could picture Mathieu van der Poel not wanting to do that. You know, he does things.
For all these Zwift adverts, he doesn't really strike me as a Zwift sort of guy.
No. Yeah, that's a good point actually for all the advertising. And next, you're going to be telling me he doesn't use Alpecin shampoo.
I have no comment.
Moving swiftly on, but you're right. It was questionable, his kind of late arrival, and you know, potentially you could imagine that he had a bit of brain fog going on from the jet lag and just didn't think, and just.
From what I've heard, he didn't look that sharp in the training, like in comparison with others. You know, Pidcock looked great by all accounts, and whereas Mathieu didn't look his usual self. Which is normal if you've got jet lag. Yeah,
well, exactly. That's the thing. And if you're building up to this, you know, your main goal of the year or whatever, and yeah, I don't know. It's not out for us to question.
We can speculate. We don't really know what happened, but it for sure was not the Olympics that we had in mind for the men.
For sure, it was definitely not. And obviously, you know, it
almost took away the shine, I think, from what Tom Pidcock did.
Yeah, because you wanted to see that battle, didn't you? Like, you know, no disrespect to any of the other riders, because there were some incredible riders in there, but those were the two that you were that was the headline banner, kind of, wasn't it?
I wasn't convinced actually that it was going to be between those two, because of the season that Matthias Lukiger had, and you know, Nino Schurter, you don't count him out big events ever. And there's so many other different riders that could pull a performance out on the big day. Yeah. That I wasn't convinced that it was going to be between Pidcock and Van der Poel. But yeah, Pidcock was just fantastic. Really
That's
fantastic.
The thing. He was outstanding. I mean, it's, you know, you could argue that even if Mathieu had been there, Tom Pidcock was.
I don't think it would have made any difference, honestly.
That was his day, wasn't it? It was pretty special ride.
He really loves mountain biking, and I think it shows.
Yeah,
he's really enthusiastic about it, and he took his preparations pretty seriously. It wasn't just the case of, oh, the roadie has turned up and is hoping for the best.
I don't think you get many guys that are pure road cyclists saying, I think I'll just do a bit of downhill at the weekend. That sounds good.
Yeah, well, Peter Sagan was one who was out with Greg Minnaar. The week before Greg Minnaar won Worlds, he'd been out riding the trails in Andorra with Peter Sagan.
Oh.
So who knows what we might see in the future?
That's what Sagan turned up, didn't he? Was it the previous Olympics that Sagan had the mountain bike? Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't quite work out for him, but
good for him to have a go.
He's almost a bit before his time, because when Sagan was, you know, Van der Poel's age and Pidcock's age, it just wasn't a thing to do multidiscipline. Whereas I think if he was a younger rider coming through now, he'd be able to say, oh, I want to do a bit of mountain biking, do a bit of cross.
I would love to see that. Like Sagan now. Young Sagan, like coming through. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's a bit before his time, sort of. Yeah, but then again, he would be up against stiffer competition, arguably, than he might have been back then. So yeah. Anyway, yes, we've diverted from Mathieu. Sorry, Mathieu. we were supposed to be mourning the loss of Mathieu from the Olympics, and we've diverted.
Very sad. He's got the cyclocross season coming too. You know.
I think he'll be very keen to prove a few points over cyclocross season and next year. Yeah, and he will in his own inimitable style, I'm sure.
Definitely.
So surprises now. So we need to hear about what surprised you. Obviously, everything we've talked about so far has also been surprising, but something that stood out as unexpected, or a race that was really good, or what did you choose?
The Swiss 1-2-3 at the Olympics, which is kind of mad, really, that they were able to do that. I know we talk about the Dutch dominance in road cycling, and I think we probably expected that, or thought that it was a possibility that the Dutch women might do it in the road race. It didn't work out. It hasn't worked out so far. It's actually never happened in cycling since like the early 1900s, where you've had one nation sweep the podium.
Oh, right. Oh, no, I didn't know.
And it's almost set up so that it doesn't happen. The Olympics have such strict athlete quotas that, you know, it should be almost impossible. And the fact that they did it was just mad. So surprising.
Yeah, so it's like, obviously when you look at the sort of the field, you would expect the French to have medalled at least. I
mean, going into it, I think I'd done a big Twitter thread before the men's race about, here is what I think could happen, here is who could win. And it was maybe about like 8 weeks long. Going into the women's was a completely different story. I think I did one tweet and it's like, which French woman is going to win?
Yeah.
Which one is going to come second? Who's going to be on the podium? Because they've just been so strong the last couple of years.
It was more like which country gets a bronze, basically.
Exactly. Exactly. And I thought maybe Switzerland had a chance at bronze, but no. they really performed on the day. And it was great to see Yolanda take the gold, because I'm a huge fan. And she's really struggled the last few years with injuries, and she had a really big crash at the end of 2019 and had to have surgery. She had, you know, collapsed lungs and a ruptured spleen and broken ribs, and it was serious. It wasn't the sort of thing that you just come back from overnight, and it's really taken her a while to get back to the Yolanda that we expect to see. And it felt like every time she was almost coming back, something else would happen. She's had sinus problems and hay fever and illness, and then coming into Tokyo, she was looking really good, and then she fell off, I think it was in Rio Gang, 6 weeks before the Olympics, and broke her hand.
Oh no.
Not ideal preparation. But yeah, she's
obviously healed just in time. Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think there's something about the Olympics bringing out stories and people who've had setbacks, and just like, it's the same in the women's road race, wasn't it? You couldn't have made that up, that what happened in the road race. And it was the same with the mountain biking. Obviously the French both had their problems, didn't they? I think within the race.
Yeah, it didn't go well for them, but yeah, I was delighted that Yolanda won. It's been coming. The big win has been coming, and the fact that she did it at the Olympics was
doesn't get much bigger.
And it means we get to see that beautiful Trek paint scheme on her bike from now on.
They're good at that. Trek do a good bike, don't they? When
they do good gold. They know how to do gold paint, unlike other teams that we'll not mention.
Yes, we don't. I think it's fairly clear when you make a bronze bike for someone who's won.
Or an orange bike.
Orange, yes, weird orangey bronze sort of, But Trek do it right. They know what they're doing. Lucinda Brand's bike at the over the weekend at Euros was just like so pretty.
Yeah, Reece Wilson was riding about on a gold downhill bike as well. It was pretty spectacular.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. That was an amazing 1, 2, 3, and you could see how absolutely overjoyed they were as each one of them came over the line sort of successively, and they realised what they'd done.
That they managed to do it as a team. They're quite close, the Swiss team. They do more training camps as a team than most other nations, I think. Which I wonder if that's had an impact on their performance. But I mean, they all had their best ride of the season.
Yeah,
all on the same day.
Peaked well. They peaked.
Incredible.
It's good. Maybe it's because they do have that closeness. I mean, there's obviously quite a lot of Swiss riders in comparison to some other nations, I suppose. But again, like it was unexpected, and clearly they were just overjoyed. It was lovely to see.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So next question, next category that I have for you is a moment that you will remember this season by. So it's kind of like a thing that you'd put in a box and open it up, and there would be 2021 mountain biking season in all its glory. What did you choose for this?
I'm going to switch to downhill.
Okay. Good.
Probably the whole snowshoe weekend, which is quite broad.
There's a lot of
but
it.
it was just amazing to watch. Reece Wilson winning his first World Cup was great. That was a highlight, because that's been coming as well. And he didn't manage to do it when he was in the rainbow jersey. But getting a win at the end of the season is pretty good. And I had a moment in the bath singing Flower of Scotland to no one but myself.
Oh, that's a lovely moment. You've got to do these things.
Yeah, you do. I'm glad that there was no one else around. But the whole, going into the snowshoe, it was a double header because of making up cancelled rounds. And the overall wasn't decided for either the men or the women. And it was still pretty open. So, and the women's was all fairly close together. The eventual winner of the overall, Valentina Hall, was I think 4th going into the 2 races at snowshoe. And Loic Bruni, who won the men's, was in 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was a lot of drama and action happened over the course of 2 races.
Yeah, that's kind of cool that it came down to one weekend, and there was, because of that double header. As a race organizer or as like TV production, you can't really ask for better for the final races of the season, for it all to just be happening and be this big event. Mm-hmm.
It was pretty. Valentina had a bit of a strange season, really, because she dominated so convincingly as a junior. And coming up to a senior, I think everyone expected it of her, including herself, and she almost got in her head quite a bit. And she could have won the first 2 races, but had mistakes or just bad luck that meant it didn't happen. And she did a really good interview with Red Bull before snowshoe, saying that she just wanted to have fun. She needed to stop being serious, and that was what was missing from her racing as a junior, was that she was much more, and she just wanted to not think about the results and go and have a good time riding her bike. Fair. And she did it. She did it twice. Whatever she said to herself obviously worked.
Yeah.
And when she finished, she had no idea that she'd won the overall. It wasn't in her mind at all. I think the post-race interview she did with Lauren, her hands were on her head for the whole time because she just couldn't believe it. It was really nice to see. Really nice to see.
Yeah, you love to see that, don't you? When it just when it sort of dawns on a rider what they've done. It's pretty special. But I wonder what she did say, like pep talk that she gave herself to go and absolutely ace it like that. It's pretty awesome.
If she does it again next season, I think she's going to be pretty dominant and hard to beat, I think, if she comes in with that same mindset.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And then the men's overall was literally like everything. It was so down to the wire, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was mad. Thibaut Deprello had been leading because he'd been so consistent throughout the season. He'd picked up enough points in qualifying that he had a pretty good lead. He had a nasty crash in the first race. I think many couldn't start the second race.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of down to Loris Berger and Loic Bruni going into the final race. It was basically like whichever one won the race was taking the overall. It was so close. And Loic Bruni has this thing where I don't think people talk about it nearly enough, is how good his response to pressure is. It's not even coping with pressure. It's like, you can't say that he's coping, he's thriving on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's why he's won 4 world titles. Like, you put him under pressure and you will get the best Bruni that
for sure. Yeah, that's what went.
And that was exactly what happened in snowshoe. You know, he had to win. He did.
Mm-hmm.
He looked amazing doing it. And it was kind of a shame that it was contrasted with Loris, who is usually so precise and such a perfectionist and makes everything look super easy. He just had a nightmare. He had an awful day. I think his interview after the race, he basically said, I rode like I'd forgotten how to ride my bike. And as much as it hurts to say it, like that's what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just such different responses to that pressure of you need to nail this run and it's yours.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
like the psychology behind it, and obviously, like, you know, I suppose all sort of winners in sport must have that mentality, but it doesn't mean that they all do it at the right time. But yeah, that sort of, you have to win. Okay, then watch me.
Yeah.
And that final run,
could bottle whatever it is that he has and sell it to other athletes, they'd wrap it up, I'm sure, because it's pretty amazing that he does it so often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think it takes a special kind of person to have that mettle, as it were, to just pull it off like that.
Yeah,
I remember watching
a good end of season.
Oh yeah, it was cool. Like I was a day, I didn't realize it was a double header because I'm still a novice to all this, and I remember seeing you and
Wednesday.
Yeah, it was yeah, there was a whole bunch of it going on, and I saw you and Kate and a few other people shouting about it on Twitter, and I was like, hang on a second, I didn't think this was happening. And so I had to go back and watch the previous day and then catch up on that, and it was just like such good entertainment. And that final run from Bruni was just madness. Like, just can't believe how fast they go down that thing. Madness.
Don't ever want to do it myself, but I really enjoy watching them do it.
Oh, I love that some people would like to do that, and that's what they want to do in their lives, and I'm very happy to sit in my living room comfortably watching them do that. But no, it's not for me. Yeah, it was excellent, really, really good. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, you know, I was on board with regular mountain bike, and I sort of knew what was going on, and then I came across downhill, and I was like, what is this? What is this madness? Like, I want a bit of that. It's just,
I'd never watched it before until I actually went to a race in 2016 at Fort William, and it was the first time I'd ever seen it. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Because if you try and explain the concept of downhill to someone, which is, you know, it's people racing individually against the clock, you're like, that's a time trial. It's not, is it?
No. So that's a time trial with a few significant differences.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's always a great atmosphere at downhill races. That people just go get excited. It's a different world to go and watching road racing.
Yeah, definitely. And the American races in particular looked like really fun. Looked like everyone was having a blast.
The crowd at Snowshoe was fantastic, and the fact that they really had to travel to get there, because Snowshoe it's not near anything, and people were driving for, I think 16 hours. Simon was telling me about someone he'd been speaking to who'd driven him and his wife for 16 hours to go and see it. So it's a really passionate crowd. Yeah. And the fact that they've got, really entertaining downhill races. And then they had Christopher Blevins winning the cross country on the last day, which I can't remember the date, but the last time an American man won a cross country race was early 90s.
Yeah, I think, was it 20 something years or more?
30 years. Crazy long time considering. So the fact that they, on the last day got to cheer for that was.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. All in all, just seemed like a really great time, and a great way to, as you say, to finish the season off, and great memories. Very good choice. So the second to last category is unsung hero, or MVP, like someone who's doing something great behind the scenes, or is working really hard but doesn't get acknowledged for it, or whatever, something like that. So obviously in road racing, people have been choosing domestiques and things like that, but we don't really have those in mountain biking. So let's hear what you chose, or who you chose instead.
So I chose Red Bull, Media House, not the drink. I think I've always quite enjoyed Red Bull, and the idea of it's free for starting. But they have a set program you can tune in. It's very straightforward to watch. But I think that this year they've really sort of stepped up their game in terms of production and the package that they put out. It's just been really engaging to watch. And I know that's not just the case for me, who, I watch a lot of mountain biking, but my mum, for example, can just switch on Red Bull on her iPad and immediately be taken into what's happening. They kind of give you a roundup in the pre-show of where everyone's at, where everyone's, wanting to be, then the race, and then the post-show. It's just a really good format, I think, for watching mountain biking.
Yeah, I'd agree, actually. Yeah, go on. What were you going to say?
So they brought in new presenters this year for commentating, and Tracy Hannah, and Elliot Jackson, and they're both actually ex-downhill riders. And they've brought in something just a bit fresher and a bit, they get so excited about what they're watching. They so clearly, both of them, love what they, mountain biking, and they're very good at conveying it to people who are watching. It's the knowledge that they both bring, both in terms of being ex-riders and knowledge of current riders and tracks, and they makes for a really fascinating watch.
I think it's very it's obviously when you get good commentators, it's an added dimension, isn't it? I think to you can enjoy a race without with just normal commentary. But I'd agree with that in terms of the level of enthusiasm and accessibility. Like being a new fan to mountain biking, I found it really engaging. Definitely watching through the Red Bull format, and kind of, I can't remember any of their individual names because as I've said, I've only watched a few programs of it, but they draw you in quickly and get you hyped up. As you said, a really enthusiastic.
Warner, as lead commentator, does a great job of getting people excited, and the fact that both Tracy and Elliot can stay at his level is quite impressive.
Yeah,
I love to bitch about commentators, don't get me wrong, but I have no complaints with those guys at all.
No, they're fab. Yeah, and the whole production is good, and it's just easy to get into it. Like it's just you put it on and you're drawn in straight away. I would agree. Yeah. Very good job.
I'll confess, actually, as I mentioned earlier, I was at Falchsaw, and even though my hotel room was only 30 metres away from the downhill finish bowl, I sat in my room and watched the men's downhill on Red Bull.
Yeah, there you go. That's an endorsement if ever I've heard one. Definitely.
It's like, it's good watching it in person. It's better watching it on Red Bull. So probably shouldn't get to that.
Well, no, I think it's fair. It's fair though, isn't it? Like you said, like people say, like when you go and watch a race live, it's fun, but it's there and then it's gone. Whereas if you sit at home, you get a bit of a fuller picture, and you get that kind of the colour of the knowledge of the commentators and their own takes and things. So I can appreciate that. I bet, and hotels are comfortable and probably warmer.
Well, I could see the trend from the hotel room, so it was almost like being there.
I love it. That's good. Yes, definitely glad to have Red Bull, and obviously it being free as well is quite a bonus. Can't argue with that. Doesn't get much better than free. So we'll wrap it up with one more category, which is one for the road. So like something you've got to look forward to for next year, or something that you want to chat about that we haven't had time to fit into one of the other categories. I suppose it should one for the mountain rather than one for the road on this one. So what have you chosen for this one?
Well, I was trying to think about what I'm most excited about next year, because it's pointless trying to make predictions, especially with downhill.
Yeah, of course.
Pointless. And I mentioned earlier the World Cup in Brazil, which is going to be really exciting. It's going to be a great race. I am very excited to see Mona Mitterwalner move up to elite level.
So tell us a bit about Mona then, because I had to admit I didn't know the name. So what is it about her that's exciting? And
She's just been so impressive in the under 23s. You know, the lap times that she's setting on a par faster than the elite women.
Okay.
She had a perfect season, I think, this year. So she won every round.
Wow.
I might be wrong, but I think she did. The under 23 World Cup, took under 23 world champs, and then went on and won the elite marathon world champs, which was just, yeah, she's had a great season. And I think it's going to be interesting to see where she slots in the elite
Definitely.
women. Because actually success in the under 23s isn't necessarily an indicator that you're going to come in to elite women and dominate. I mean, Sina Fry had pretty similar results a few seasons ago, and she's not that her move up hasn't been successful. She's had really good results and consistent with it. But maybe she'd be disappointed with at the speed at which it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then you contrast that with Luana Lecompte, who's come in and didn't really have that success at under 23 level, but in elites, she was so dominant this season. At the start of the season, she was incredible. She looked unbeatable. So I'm interested to see how those two, Mona and Luana, kind of where they go for the next season, for sure.
Yeah, it sounds as though, from what you said, as though she should sort of slot in quite quickly and quite high up the ranks, like pretty much straight away, potentially, if she's got the confidence. And
yeah, but then people said that about Valentina Hall coming up from juniors last year into the downhill, and it took her a while to find her feet. It didn't happen straight away. So there's a whole lot of different factors that you know might impact that, you know, mind game least of all, I guess.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so that's psychology again, isn't it? And just, as you say, finding your feet. But you said she won the elite marathon. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was really good. It was good to watch.
Yeah, that's not nothing, is it?
No, she could do pretty much anything that she turns her hand to, I think.
I'll keep an eye out, because like I said, I hadn't heard the name, but that's just me being new to it all. But yeah, it definitely sounds like someone to watch. So what have we got to look forward to next year then? We've got Brazilian World Cup? Yeah. Is there any other specific really good tracks that we've got coming up that you are looking forward to, or where you're going to go?
I haven't seen the calendar.
No, I haven't either. I just assumed you haven't got this information.
And Simon's been arranging it in my living room for the last year, so I should know more than I do. All I know is that Brazil is the first cross-country race. The first downhill race is in Lourdes in France.
Okay.
On my birthday, and that's the only reason that I know when it is because it's my birthday. And I'll either have to go or spend my birthday alone.
Oh, okay.
But that's a pretty good way to start the downhill season. I think there's so many strong French riders, both in men's and women's, who are going to make for an interesting season. So to start there, they always have really big crowds as well. French fans are so engaged with downhill that yeah, that's a pretty strong start to the season.
It sounds pretty
good.
We've
got a cyclocross season to get through first, Kate.
Of course, yeah, I know, exactly. I haven't even done a cyclocross version of this because I guess off season for cyclocross is the summer, so maybe I'll do a cyclocross special in like June.
It just fits at an awkward time of the year, but yeah, the off-road season, mountain bike now finished, but off-road is not yet.
No, not yet. So when does the season kick off then for mountain biking?
End of March.
End of March, okay. Good stuff. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very like on board with it now. I'm I've got all my disciplines now. I'm like, right, I know what I'm doing now. After just following road for years, and I feel like I've had my mind opened over the last couple of years.
Well, I was the same for a long time. You know, I was kind of brought up with road cycling in the background, being dragged to races with my dad, and never really got into anything else for a long time, until I discovered cyclocross in, I think, 2013, and then mountain bike followed.
Yeah.
And I still like road racing, but it's just, yeah.
I think there's you know, I think there's a lot to be said for the other formats, and I like the small chunks of it. You know, you get your hour and a half or hour if it's cyclocross, and it's an added dimension, isn't it? It's just something different.
It's much easier to watch as well because you have the women's race, both in cyclocross and mountain bike. You have the women's race, then you have the men's race. It's all on the same channel, one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
So different to try to watch
of characters, as it were. You know, whereas in road racing, there's so many of them that it's quite unwieldy, isn't it, to follow so many riders? But you have your same kind of bubble of people, like I said earlier, just moving around, and you can get.
And we're still not at the point in road racing, women's road racing, where access to it is easy. You know, sometimes you're watching a dodgy Facebook stream with no commentary, trying to follow a road race. Yeah, it's got a way to go.
It has, that's true, and I guess that isn't a good thing about both cross and mountain bike, is that both events get equal coverage, which is really good. It's you know, it's easy to be into both at the same time because they're both right there and accessible, which is how it should be.
And it comes in waves as well, I think. You know, both disciplines, where you have the women's race is more exciting than the men's race. You know, because you might have men dominating in one season, certain guys that dominate, and then the women's race is a lot more open. And then I think, you know, it might switch like it has in mountain biking. The men's races in cross country are so much more open than they used to be. I mean, it's not that Nino's getting older, he's not past it by any stretch of the imagination, but it's allowed a lot of the younger guys to come through and have a decent shout, and it's not predictable.
Yeah, definitely, which is, as you say, if one of them becomes a bit predictable because there is a dominant rider, then it gives you that there's another set of racing to watch that maybe isn't so predictable. And
exactly,
yeah, good stuff. Well, hopefully mountain bike crowd will have enjoyed this episode and kept listening to their favorite kind of moments, and hopefully it'll entice new fans to the discipline as well, because it is awesome to watch.
It is. Tune in to mountain biking.
Do it on Red Bull. Not that we're endorsed by Red Bull anyway.
I'm not getting paid, honestly.
I know. I feel like I should ask for some money from like Alpecin and Red Bull and who else? It was somebody else, I'm sure, that we've talked about. But yeah, we need to get some Trek. There we go. We've mentioned Trek.
Yeah, Trek's lovely gold bikes.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. Right. Thank you so much for your time, Holly. I've really enjoyed chatting to you about this.
It's been a pleasure.
Looking forward to next season and seeing what else transpires, I guess. And hopefully no more falling down ramps for Matthew.
Hopefully not.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye. You've been listening to Right Bike Repeat's Highlights Reel in association with QuickLink Podcast and rightbikerepeat.com. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, share and subscribe to the channel to get updates when new shows are posted. Follow me over on Twitter @RightBikeRepeat,